Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ellie Scottney, the best in the world under the age of 30, could be one win away from undisputed title shot.
Catford.
Ellie Scottney could be one away from her dream shot at becoming an undisputed super bantamweight world champion. The Catford fighter boxes Jamie Mercado on July 11th to unify the IBF, WBC, and WBO super bantamweight world titles on the undercard of Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3 at Madison Square Garden. She's seasoned it. She's mixed it. With Serrano, for instance, she's as tough as they come, Scotney told Sky Sports ahead of the Mercado fight. It feels surreal, but it's one thing getting the opportunity, you've got to seize it. Everything's there on the table now. I've got to go in. It's all on me, and I can't wait. If I can go over there and make people feel part of my journey, part of my story, then I've done my job.
Catford.
So what I think you're going to see in that fight is that Ellie is quicker to the draw than Jamie Mercado, punches tighter.
Catford.
She is a more compact puncher than Jamie Mercado, and that will tell the story. Being able to get the hand back fast enough to protect that side of your face after you throw a punch and staying off the line before you throw a punch and after you throw a punch. That's what I think we're going to see from Ellie. What we're going to see from Jamie is durability and persistence. Because she is durable. She was able to go the distance with Amanda Serrano at 126. Amanda couldn't knock her out at 126. Ellie's not going to knock her out at 122, but she can out-hustle her because she is comparatively slower than Ellie, punches wider, and her work is a lot messier than Ellie's. What passes for combination punching with Jamie are tantamount to flurries, uncontrolled and messy flurries while falling in and collapsing the pocket. Ellie's target, if she is victorious in this next fight, would be the WBA title, the fourth major world championship. And I think that going after that belt will be comparatively more difficult than the Mercado fight that she's about to have. To get that one, she's going to have to go through Mayeli Flores. Or Nazarena Romero if she beats Mayeli in a rematch. Still don't know when and where that's going down, because they're supposed to be having a rematch. Undisputed is Ellie's goal. Scotney said, "We all laugh about the little pact I made with my nan, and we're that close to finishing the collection. That's where everything is heading." Nikisa Badarian, who founded MVP Promotions with Jake Paul, has signed Scotney to their company and intends to back her in her quest for Undisputed. Absolutely, that's the goal. As long as she wants to do it, we, of course, want to do it, Badarian told Sky Sports. "I believe Ellie Scottney is the best boxer in the world, under age 30, and this will be her opportunity to show everyone that." With Jake Paul as a promoter, Badarian intends to make Scotney a star. With Jake's crossover reach, add into it Ellie's capabilities inside the ring, but more importantly for me is her personality outside the ring, which she doesn't get to show often enough. She's a beautiful person, but she's funny. She's got a bunch of personality, and we are excited for the world to see that, Badarian said. "We know that if she displays that and continues to perform inside the ring, she's going to be the face of women's boxing in the United Kingdom in very short order." But if this is true, why didn't Matchroom fight harder to keep her?
Catford.
Scotney could eventually move up to featherweight and potentially even meet Serrano, the superstar of MVP's promotional stable in the Puerto Rican's natural weight division. "It's up to the two of them. I'm sure Ellie would want to," Badarian said. "Amanda's earned the right to determine what she wants to do next, and if she wants to fight Ellie, and Ellie wants to fight her, of course we'll support that. Part of what we're trying to do is build a roster of fighters that can fight each other on any given night in any given year, time and time again without worry of how losing a O impacts their careers." Let's address all the aforementioned talking points. I do not expect Ellie and Amanda to be on a collision course because Amanda's career is winding down, and it's conceivable that shortly after the Taylor trilogy, win or lose, she's gonna bow out and go all in into her managerial role at MVP. So Scotney versus Serrano, I don't think that's a thing. It's a provocative proposition, but little more than just a proposition. I do not expect to see Scotney versus Serrano. As far as Ellie Scottney being a star and MVP taking an interest in her, if everything that Nikisa said about Ellie is true, then why didn't Matchroom fight harder to keep her, and why were they not the ones that got her there? I don't think Matchroom failed Ellie Scottney, but perception, it's the funniest thing. At Matchroom, she's just another British girl that Eddie Hearn is promoting while promoting many of his British fighters on an international stage. To Americans, that may not seem all that interesting, but when a Jake Paul, when a Nikisa Badarian, when an MVP takes an interest in that same fighter, it's different. It's not as ho-hum, because then what you're wondering is, why is MVP taking an interest in this British girl? Well, she must be pretty good if they're trying to promote her. It's not necessarily what you would expect, and it's not according to the script. When things become too predictable in the sport of boxing, that ain't good. British promoter promoting British fighter. Right. Social media influencer, crossover star promoting British fighter. That's a little different. It shakes things up. It's the pineapples in your pizza. A little bit of whiskey in your coffee. It's the finger in her butt while she's on top. It spices things up is what I'm getting at. It's different. And because it's different, it grabs that much more attention. So I would not say that Matchroom failed Ellie Scottney in any way. They laid the foundations. They laid the groundwork, and now MVP hopes to build upon that. Both were necessary. The time that she spent at Matchroom and now the time that she will spend on MVP. Catford. Ellie is one of my favoritist fighters. And now she's being exposed to a new sort of audience. We'll see what MVP can do for her. Over to the Richardson-Hitchens versus George Kambosos fight set to go down in the tri-state area this Saturday night. Who's on the undercard? Andy Cruz is on the undercard. Andy Cruz is a strong favorite here against Hironori Mishiro, although he's likely going to have to negotiate the distance to prevail. Mishiro has been doing 12 rounds since very early in his career, learning his craft on the tough Japanese domestic circuit. He has nearly 150 rounds in the bank, a good chin, and a wealth of experience, whereas most of Andy's experience is in the amateurs, fighting in 3-rounders. Hironori's got more pro experience. The Kanagawa man lacks power, but is physically strong, and will try to drag Cruz into a dogfight to enjoy any success. The Cuban has a huge edge in skills, speed, and athletic qualities. He will be able to lead his foe a merry dance for the duration and onto a world title shot. So I've always had my reservations about Andy Cruz in spite of his decorated amateur career, because not every great amateur makes for a great professional, and there are several examples of this. Gold medalists Estelle Mosley and Tony Yoka. They medaled in the Olympics that they fought in, but their professional careers are not as exhilarating, are not as decorated, even though they won the gold. One of many examples that not every great amateur makes a great professional. The jury is still out when it comes to Andy Cruz, and the biggest part of promoting Andy Cruz has been bringing up Keyshawn Davis and their amateur history, that Andy beat Keyshawn 5 times in the amateurs. That's what has kept him in the conversation, so to speak, kept him interesting, that he has that history with Keyshawn, and that they were both competing at the same weight in the pros, but now Keyshawn is set to move up, and to promote Andy, they're going to have to find some other kind of way, the old-fashioned way. He's going to have to win his fights and do it in good fashion. They're Cuban fighters, even decorated amateur Cuban fighters, don't have the best track record in becoming big marquee attractions in this market. Guillermo Vergandiel, Erislandy Lara, these are guys who can fight. They can definitely fight, but they couldn't sell out a bingo hall. So how does Matchroom succeed with Andy Cruz, where other promoters have failed with other Cuban fighters? And like I said, they might have to do it the old-fashioned way. Just get Andy the fights and hope that Andy wins the fights and wins them in good fashion, because you don't have that Keyshawn Davis backstory to lean on anymore. Keyshawn is moving up. There's only so many times you're going to bring that guy up before the conversation gets stale. He is also competing at the same weight as Gervonta Davis, who in all likelihood he will never get the chance to fight. But he's also there with Shakur Stevenson. He is also there with Raymond Muratalla and Abdullah Mason. So there has to be a shift in the focus for Andy to make those fights conversations. It can't be about Keyshawn anymore.
Lloyd Schofield is there too.
I have seen all of Andy Cruz's professional bouts, and I have to say that I have seen changes. I have seen the transition from a more amateurish style to a pro style. He's being trained by Bozy Ennis.
Father of Jaron Ennis.
And I see the changes. The danger with these decorated amateurs, these standout amateurs, is maybe you can be a great fighter, a great and effective fighter for 3 rounds in the amateurs. But in the pros, you got your 6-rounders, your 8-rounders, your 10 and your 12-rounders. Can you be a great fighter for 12 rounds? Do you have the intestinal fortitude to do that? When the pressure is on, your arms are tired, it's hard to lift them, the damage is setting in, and the guy in front of you won't go away.
Shapower-like.
Not as much pressure to knock a guy out or hurt a guy in the amateurs because it's only a 3-rounder, but in the pros, if you can't hurt a guy, that's a problem.
You can't knock anybody out. Yeah, that's a problem. Because as a fight progresses and you're getting your punches out, you're getting your punches off, it's not like it comes at no expense. It still costs you energy.
And if it's costing you energy, while it's having no palpable effect on your opponent, you know what could happen? You could tire in the middle and get taken out towards the end. That could happen. You could gas.
Could be a great fighter in the amateurs for 3 rounds, but can you still be a great fighter in the pros for 12?
So what we aspire to find out as Andy Cruz enters into the ring this weekend against Hironori Mishiro, who's not big on power, but he is big on experience. Sometimes that's all it takes. A battle of attrition and outlasting the other fighter. Veteran tactics. Let him waste his energy. Look fly and flashy in the first half so you can be spent in the second. If anything's working against Andy this weekend, it is that he only has 5 fights. He doesn't have a lot of rounds.
I'm actually more interested in Andy's fight with Hironori than I am in the main event. I don't really care about Hitchens versus Cambodia, to be honest.
I'm interested in Andy because what Andy represents is the next wave of lightweights, the next cycle. And I didn't jump on the bandwagon, the Andy Cruz bandwagon, based on his amateur exploits. These are the pros. You have to adapt to that.
When a fight starts and while he's still fresh, he can win some rounds. But as a fight progresses, will his cardio give out?
Will he buckle under pressure? How well does he hold a shot? These are all the things we gotta find out before we know if Andy Cruz is the real deal Holyfield.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Oscar De La Hoya's latest Clapback Thursday takes aim at Eddie Reynoso, Canelo, and Dana White. In this segment, we're going to focus on the Reynoso and Canelo stuff. You know that Oscar's never at a loss for words when it comes to those two.
Oscar De La Hoya's Clapback Thursday went on a brief hiatus as the promoter and Hall of Fame fighter waited for boxing events to inspire a return episode, finding his muse in Canelo Alvarez, which he always seems to, his trainer Eddie Reynoso, rival promoter Dana White, and the boxing media. De La Hoya let rip a 6+ minute return show on Thursday, lighting into the parties and declaring, "No one will ever put a muzzle on me." Somebody needs to, in reference to 4 fighters submitting positive tests for PEDs while training under Reynoso, 6 if you count Ryan Garcia, and Luis Nery's positive outside the camp. De La Hoya repeated suspicions he aired to reporters March 30th at his Golden Boy Promotions card in Vegas. An inaccurate assessment of things, because some of those fighters that he's talking about weren't even with Eddie when they tested positive. Ryan was being trained by Derek James, not Eddie Reynoso last year.
And he was being promoted by you. So if we're playing the guilty by association game, doesn't that make you just as guilty?
Canelo Alvarez, too. He was being promoted by you when he tested positive for clenbuterol, wondering why the Reynoso link hasn't resulted since a published investigation of the camp. De La Hoya said many members of the boxing media have been paid off by certain people and essentially muzzled. 6 fighters, and nobody's investigating this.
I've seen people bring it up.
This doesn't seem suspicious or out of the ordinary to you. Doesn't this warrant an investigation of Eddie's camps? De La Hoya noted that he's promoted the latest positive fighter, former 154-pound champion Jaime Munguia of Tijuana, for a decade, and he tested clean up until his fight with Eddie in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. How is it ethical that you have 6 fighters testing dirty from the same camp and we don't have questions? They, the reporters, crucified Ryan Garcia every day for a year over a tiny bit of Osterin. So why so quiet now? I'm so disappointed. I didn't realize you guys could be bought so easily.
Well, all that really means is that Jaime is just as guilty as Ryan.
I'm not arguing that Eddie's gym is a clean gym and that these fighters are actually clean fighters. I think the opposite. I think they're all juicing.
But I also think that Oscar knows that.
I also think that Oscar has become an expert at throwing stones in a glass house because anything you can say about Eddie Reynoso, you can say about Oscar. Should he be investigated because Canelo tested positive while being promoted by Golden Boy? Should he be investigated because Ryan tested positive while being promoted by Golden Boy?
Allow me to state what's not so obvious. This is not about peds for Oscar. This is just him using peds as an excuse to continue to take shots at them.
To keep bringing them up while they have better things to do. Some people enjoy Oscar's little Clapback Thursday segments, but all it really is a channel for him to vent his frustrations, because he is a frustrated promoter, and he has been for years, taking the back seat to Eddie Hearn at DAZN.
Why do you think he has an axe to grind with Eddie?
Eddie Hearn is more the point man at DAZN than Oscar De La Hoya ever was, and it doesn't help that when Canelo Alvarez left Golden Boy, he went right to Matchroom. Oscar wasn't happy about that either. He is a frustrated guy.
Clapback Thursday is just a way for him to vent his frustrations by pointing out everybody else's hard times and everybody else's pitfalls as if he doesn't have any of his own. Your star fighter Ryan Garcia just got embarrassed by Rolly Romero.
And that's the only guy in the Golden Boy stable that can actually draw anything.
The guy who just got outboxed by Rolly Romero.
Is a social commentary about how indignant Oscar has become over the years, how brazenly hypocritical, how ridiculous.
It's a reflection of something. I think it's a reflection of the American populace. To some extent it is.
That rules for thee, but not for me mentality, pointing out other people's flaws as if you don't have flaws of your own. It's both dysfunctional and delusional, which is in keeping with the American boxing space. These are the kind of guys the Americans gravitate towards.
Degenerates, drug addicts, outright clowns.
They find this stuff entertaining, and how many times have you heard me say that the Americans have a penchant for making stupid people famous? You're chastising Eddie Reynoso for Jaime Munguia testing positive while at the same time arguing Ryan Garcia's innocence.
What are you on, drugs?
Yes! Yes, he is, and I think that's Oscar's problem. Too much cocaine.
Too much booger sugar and too many dick pills.
Sounds like an idiot? I don't find it amusing. All I see is a frustrated promoter who's been frustrated for years. He himself doesn't have a lot going on, which gives him time to put together these little Clapback Thursday segments. Perhaps you should spend more time promoting Virgil Ortiz.
That's one example.
Instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing, because everybody else has a lot going on except for you, Oscar.